The WNBA season has ended. Yes, there will be time to look at the playoff matchups and other videos. In this video, we are going to look at the conclusion of the Tank Wars. Unbelievable to me, but Greg Bibb and the Dallas Wings are currently leading the Tank Wars and have the best odds to score the number one pick. And of course, the presumptive number one pick is Paige Bueckers if she enters the WNBA draft. And if healthy, and if the team with the number one pick does not suffer an onset of stupidity. But will Paige Bueckers be in the 2025 draft? In addition, of course, we have to take a look at Washington. What were they doing? Have they blown this? But before we start, if you enjoy the content, then please subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Well, it happened unbelievably. The Dallas Wings have the best odds for the number one pick. If you are not aware, then you obviously don't follow my channel. So I will explain as simply as possible. The worst four teams over the last 2 years, they look at their cumulative record. The team with the worst cumulative record over the last 2 years gets the highest lottery odds. So that would be the LA Sparks at 44.2%, as they have the worst record. Then second is the Dallas Wings, and their lottery odds are 27.6%. Third is Chicago, who fell out of the 8th seed, and their odds are 17.8%. And then Washington is fourth, and their odds are 10.4%. In previous years with an expansion team, they have not factored into the lottery. They've been allocated at times, maybe the number 3 pick, but they are not in the running. At least previously, they have never been in the running for the number 1 pick. So the lottery is set. LA Sparks fans can celebrate or at least be optimistic because they have the best chance to win the lottery and get Paige Bueckers. Well, no, not so fast, my friend. Because Dallas, they own the swap rights to Chicago's pick. And as I said, Chicago is second or third, and Dallas is second. You combine that, and their odds are actually better than the LA Sparks at 45.4% versus the Sparks, whose odds are 44.2%. Now, this is even made more crazy, as it did not look like this would happen when the teams came back from the Olympic break. Both Washington and the Dallas Wings had a 6-19 record at the break, and Chicago was an unexpected 10-14. And at the Olympic break, we're in the top 8 and making the playoffs. And by the way, Atlanta was 7-17 as Ryan Howard went out before the break with an ankle injury, and that cost them a lot of games. And if you are not aware, the Washington Mystics own Atlanta's draft pick in the 2025 draft. So the Washington Mystics were looking very likely to have 2 picks in the lottery. So the stage was set after the Olympic break. It was clear that Atlanta and Chicago would do whatever they could to stay out of the lottery, as they didn't own their picks, obviously. And as I mentioned earlier, Washington and Dallas both had 6-19 records, so you would have thought that Dallas was the odds-on favorite to make the playoffs, as they were getting Satu Sabally back, who played in the Olympics. They were getting healthy, and here we go. They were going to make their run. And before the season started, Mike Thibault, the Washington Mystics general manager, he sent out a letter to the fans saying, hey, we're definitely in a rebuilding phase. Deladon's not coming back, and just be patient. We want to get new young players in. So it just seemed for all money that the tank was going to be on for the Mystics, and they were going to be well set up. But no, after the break, the Mystics went 8-7. But even more surprising, Dallas had Satu Sabally back, but they still limped home with a record of 3-12. It seemed like they were getting on track with a 3-game winning streak at home versus Los Angeles, the Aces, and then they beat Minnesota. But then the Indiana Fever came in and gave them a loss, 100-93, and then the Washington Mystics gave them an upset as well, 90-86, and they never recovered from that. They went to Atlanta, lost in OT, and then folded in Chicago, and then they went to fold for the season, where they lost 9 straight games to finish out. Now, if I was a Dallas fan, I would not be too angry about this. I would much rather have the best odds to get the number 1 pick in the draft and a franchise player and Paige Bueckers versus being the number 8 seed. i.e. the Atlanta Dream and Dead Man Walking. And I did a video a few weeks ago on the Washington Mystics asking, what are they doing? As 2 of their 8 wins after the Olympics came versus Chicago and Dallas, which ultimately hurt their lottery odds by improving their record as well as hurting Dallas and Chicago's record and putting them down in the lottery. And the comments after that video essentially broke down into 2 camps. One was like, respect them for going for it and showing pride, and the other ones were like, yeah, don't understand what they're doing. This is not real smart on our part. And then there were comments as well saying Paige Bueckers isn't worth tanking for. I don't know if she'll be that good, and I think those are crazy, as I think at worst Paige Bueckers will be Sabrina Ionescu. If you look at their shot charts in college, they're very similar. Both of the players could score on all 3 levels. She is the no-brainer as the number 1 pick in my opinion. Not to mention, she will bring the Caitlin Clark effect. It might not be as big, but there will be a lot of interest in Paige Bueckers, and that will increase attendance and eyeballs on whatever franchise gets her. And the crazy thing is that Bueckers would have been a perfect fit for the Washington Mystics, as they have Aaliyah Edwards, the former UConn, as well as Ariel Atkins in the backcourt playing off guard, and then you slot Paige Bueckers in there at the point, and that's a nice little lineup and a nice core to build around. But now their odds are the worst at getting her at 10.4%. Maybe there'll be some draft day karma for their efforts in trying. Maybe the lottery gods will reward them for their efforts. Now at Dallas, once again, I have to applaud Greg Bibb. You have won the WNBA draft, or you are on track to win the draft, but that's not the first time you have done that. As Greg Bibb loves getting draft picks and drafting players, unfortunately, under his tenure, Dallas has only won 1 playoff series. And on paper, it looks good if they win the number 1 pick. Even Greg Bibb can't mess this up. He will certainly draft Paige Bueckers, as she is the point guard they need, as Uzan and Sheldon just did not get it done. That was the major hole in their team. The LA Sparks would obviously like to draft Bueckers first as well, but if they don't get the first pick, then I think they would be happy to settle for Kiki Ariafen, as having her team back up with Cameron Brink would not be a bad consolation prize. But the big prize in this draft is clearly Bueckers, and my question is, if Dallas does score the number 1 pick with the top odds, would Bueckers choose to go to Dallas, or would she opt to stay back at UConn for another year? She has eligibility. Now, last year she said the draft order would not impact if she would enter the draft or not. Presumably that is the case, but Dallas, does she really want to go to Dallas? Would that be an issue? There is a long list of players who have requested to get out of Dallas. From Ariel Powers was happy to get out of there and taunted Greg Bibb as well. Diggin Smith was not a fan. Alicia Gray also requested to leave via trade. So I wonder if would she decide to take NIL money and then hope to go to the expansion team next year potentially in Golden State and find that another year's in Storrs, Connecticut, potentially winning a national championship and getting more NIL money. That's not a bad option versus going to Dallas and having to spend your next 7 years down in Dallas. And I have not even touched on the issue of her playing together with Arike Ogumawale. It's just hard to envision those two being in the same backcourt together. In my mind, if the Sparks or Washington win the lottery, then she's gone. She's definitely coming out, as she would like to go to both of those teams, but I just wonder about Dallas. Now it's over to you. What do you think? Do you think if Dallas scores the number 1 pick, do you think they will draft Paige Bueckers, and do you think she will make herself eligible for the draft? Thanks a lot for watching. Have a great night.